Fear not, ladies and gentlemen, for if Joe Biden is mentally unfit to be president, and he is, Kamala Harris is ready to serve. You know, the funny thing about this is that she may be ready, but she is not capable. Unless she's acting like a moron in all of these speeches and press conferences, I think we're trapped between a rock and a hard place. That being said, I would take Forrest Gump over Joe Biden. You know, we had this conversation on Timcast IRL about whether or not Kamala Harris could serve or whether or not she's mentally deficient. And I said, you know, here's the thing, right? Joe Biden has a broken brain. His brain does not work. I am not trying to be mean. I am stating a fact that he is an old man who struggles to speak these days. He is sundowning, and everybody knows. Kamala Harris, however, is more like Forrest Gump. You know what I mean? Like, her brain works, just not very well. Or you know, I guess I'll put it this way. It's like a bike with square tires. You know, like, if you pedal, you will move forward. It will go. But it's not a very good bike. You know what I mean? So I guess it's up to you what you'd rather have. You know, Joe Biden represents the bicycle with two flat tires and a bent rim. I guess maybe the chain popped off. Or just like, I don't know what to do with this. I guess you can roll down the hill on the rims. Kamala Harris represents just a really bad bike. And so I got to say, you know, in my opinion, I'd rather have Kamala Harris as president. Honestly, neither. But the Democrats have a huge problem right now. The latest report that Joe Biden will not be criminally charged because his brain is broken. And what I love about this so much is that, you know, following this report, you've got this from the New York Post. Doctors call for Biden to take mental competency test after scathing classified report. The New York Times rushing out full speed to defend a guy whose brain is clearly not there. Memory loss requires careful diagnosis, scientists say. You know, for the DOJ to just say, look at this, a federal investigator said that President Biden had poor memory and diminished faculties. But such a diagnosis would require close medical assessment, experts said. Dude, you do not need a doctor right now to realize Joe Biden's brain does not work. I want to play a video for you. It's a combination of politically despicable, but also evidence of Joe Biden's brain being totally broken. President Biden, at POTUS, tweeted, while you were Super Bowl shopping, did you notice smaller than usual products where the price stays the same? Folks are calling it shrinkflation, and it means companies are giving you less for every dollar you spend. I'm calling on the big consumer brands to put a stop to it. I'm going to pause real quick and say, no, Americans are too fat. Make all their food smaller. Stop eating so much. Or at the very least, cut out the sugars, get more protein in your diet. But I digress. I'm not going to rag on the American people for having a hard go of it when the economy ain't doing so well. Joe Biden saying it's the company's fault that they have to cut corners to save costs? Laughable. But you know what? I want to play the video for you because more importantly, listening to this guy try and speak is brutal. Listen to this.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging it just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
What I love about this video, I mean, look, if you give an honest assessment, you actually listen to how he's speaking, the dude is struggling to read this script. But more importantly, I know it's politically deceptive, but I'm just going to say, no, he actually thinks this is true. He's just a moron. I will take the moron angle and say, you should not be running for president. You should not be president. That being said, the reality is they know that even with all these stupid BS mainstream media numbers claiming the economy's better than ever, nobody feels it. So what does he do? I love this conspiracy theory. Joe Biden is a crackpot conspiracy theorist who believes that all of the companies have gotten together to shrink their products. Are you nuts? Shrinkflation's a real thing. But there's no grand conspiracy where you can call on companies to stop their grandiose plan to shrink products. No, they're shrinking the products to save money. I mean, I'm for it to a certain degree. I mean, you go to the grocery store and there's a lot of garbage people eat and it's dirt cheap. What we need to figure out, okay? And when I say partly is I want people to be able to eat food. I know not everybody can afford it, and this is a challenge. Agreed. My point is we need to find out how to reduce the amount of simple starches and sugars and increase the amounts of protein. That's a big challenge. Meanwhile, you got these people saying, don't eat meat, eat the bugs. That's not good protein. And all that fake meat they sell, like those fake cheeseburgers that are made of plant or whatever, they've got like a ridiculous amount of salt in them. All right? We need to figure out how to get people on better diets. And I'm not saying keto or anything like that. I'm saying most Americans don't get enough protein in their diet. I've been harping on this, but this is why I think we have an obesity epidemic. Because somebody goes to the grocery store and they buy some mac and cheese or something, and they'll look at it and it'll say, it's got calories or whatever, and they'll buy it, and they'll serve their family cheaper carbohydrate foods, but too much of it. So they have to eat a lot to try and get what other macronutrients they're not getting in their diet. Thus, Americans get fat. I don't think this is solving any of these problems. But my friends, here's the news. Kamala Harris says she's ready. Now, to be fair, what they're doing with this is a little underhanded. She did not say this after the report came out. So people are thinking that this report drops, Joe Biden's brain does not work, and Kamala goes, well, I'm ready to serve, as if she's ready to undercut Joe Biden. She said this 2 days before. Quote, I am ready to serve. There's no question about that. The response during an interview with the Wall Street Journal on Tuesday came 2 days before a special counsel report on Biden's handling of classified documents amplified concerns about the 81-year-old incumbent's mental acuity. The report said Biden displayed diminished faculties in interviews and called him an elderly man with poor memory. Oh, boy, I love it. The New York Times like, wait, no, because the New York Times wants him to win. How about that? Well, my friends, where are we currently? The latest polls from 538. Oh, boy, it's a nail biter here. Now, I can't honestly tell you exactly what's going to happen because it's wacky. But I mean, for the most part, polls show Trump is winning. We got Trump up 1, Trump up 8. In this one from Atlas Intel, you can see Michelle Obama beats Trump. Oh, here it goes. Even with Kennedy in the race. I like this one with no Trump in the race. I think, no Trump. You've got Biden beating Haley, Kennedy, and West. But then when it goes Biden, Trump, Kennedy polls 5%, spiking Joe Biden. Donald Trump takes the lead. Basically, when you go down, aside from this Suffolk University poll, which seems really weird with Biden up 20 points, don't buy it for a second. But I don't buy it for a second. You can see for the most part, Trump's winning in all these polls. There's like no poll outside of that one that shows Trump losing to Joe Biden. And even the ones that include Kennedy just make it worse for him. So right now, I think it's plain to see. Okay, you know what? I don't care about the polls. I don't. Say they're all wrong. How a human being could say they're going to vote for Joe Biden is insane. Kennedy, I get. And I think any sane person should not be voting for Joe Biden, especially after this report came out basically saying that his brain don't work. Now doctors want him to take a test. Take a look at this one from New York Post. Medical professionals have stepped up calls for President Biden to take a mental competency test after Thursday's blistering report from special counsel Robert Hur revealed the 81-year-old can't remember basic facts about his own life and career. And how about this? In the past week, he said that he's spoken with 3 dead people. I think it was 3. You had Mitterrand. You had, what was it? Was it 2 dead people? I think it was 3 dead people. I know Mitterrand, the French guy. He died in 1996. And Biden's like, I talked with him. It was a German guy, I think. It was one more. I could be wrong. But at any rate, the joke is maybe he really did. You know, everyone's saying his brain doesn't work. But perhaps, my friends, as you get older and you become closer and closer to the veil, that is, the thin membrane that separates our world from the next, Joe Biden has begun to see through it. And he sees Mitterrand standing right there, and he's like talking to him. I'm kidding, by the way. But it is fun to think about. Perhaps as we get older, we can see our loved ones on the other side. Don't go towards the light, Joe. The Hur report released Thursday assessed Biden as too senile to be prosecuted over his wrongful retention of classified documents and noted the commander-in-chief did not remember when he was vice president. and did not remember, even within several years, when his son Beau died. That one breaks my heart. Breaks my heart. I do not like Joe Biden. I do not like the Bidens. But in a general sense of forgetting when your son died, bro, that makes me, I'm welling up a little bit. He can't even, oh, wow. That's sad. You know, they're a crackpot, corrupt family, though, so there's only so much I can muster out, and unfortunately for them, it is not a single tear that comes out of this face. Something isn't right. I mean, I got to tell you a story. You tell me a story about Hachiko. I got to say, you tell me a story about Hachiko the dog, I'll be bawling my eyes out. You tell me a story about Joe Biden, can't remember his son. I'm like, they're a bunch of corrupt, evil people. Wow, that's, you know. Something isn't right. And even if it's minor, it must be explained to the public, Dr. Stuart Fisher, a primary care physician at a nursing home in the Bronx, told the Post. The horse is out of the barn. Not only does Biden have an infirmity to some degree, but he has delayed producing objective evidence. The internal medicine expert added, arguing that no one is buying the president's defenses about his memory. My favorite thing about all of this is that they're like, unfortunately, Joe Biden can't go to prison because he's too senile. And then Biden's like, no, I'm not. I'm smart. I can go to prison. That's basically what he's saying. Like, he was asked in that press conference, your memory's really bad. He's like, my memory's fine. Like, dude, shut up. They're telling you won't go to prison so long as you have a bad memory. No, my memory's fine. Okay, then go to prison. I say this. I think the DOJ should acquiesce to Biden's request and lock him in prison to prove, in fact, he's all with it. The results of Biden's most recent physical exam, released by the White House in February of last year, described the chief executive as fit to successfully execute the duties of president, but made no mention of a cognitive test or an assessment of his mental fitness. On Friday, White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre claimed to reporters that she had talked to White House physician Kevin O'Connor around that time, and he had told her that because of the president's actions every day, what he deals with world leaders, domestic issues, blah, 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 that shows the president is very much active and understand what's going on. No, it doesn't. That's stupid. You don't know what he's saying to these people behind closed doors. For all you know, he's sitting down with world leaders. He's looking at Emmanuel Macron. He's like, Mitterrand, listen, Mitterrand, you know, I like ice cream, but it's getting small and the price is staying the same. And Macron's like, oh, wow. Hey, please say more. This is where we're currently at. I absolutely love it. The New York Times, this is like one of the most insane articles you could write. You've got doctors being like, we would like him to be tested. The DOJ is not going to prosecute him. Then we want answers here. I got to say, Republicans need to file a resolution or whatever right now saying Biden must be tested or invoke the 25th Amendment. But, you know, Republicans are weak and impotent, so they likely will not do anything despite all of this. To be fair, maybe we don't want them to. Give the American people the chance in, what are we looking at, 8 months? Not even, I mean, just short of 8 months. The opportunity to decide for themselves. So to be fair, it probably makes more sense Republicans don't take action against Joe Biden because the more he fumbles and falters, the easier it will be for Donald Trump to win, which is why Democrats need to swap Joe Biden out now, which is why Kamala Harris is sitting there going, I'm ready to serve. You know, look, Kamala Harris, man, she is what like I call like Forrest Gump, but at least she'll say words. And I mean this sincerely. Like, you know, comment below. What do you think? You've got two people. Let's say someone asks, we've got a crisis brewing in the Middle East. The Houthi rebels have been targeting civilian cargo vessels. How would you respond? Take your pick. You got Joe Biden going, look, you know, you got Khomeini. And you got Gorbachev. You know, you got to do it. You got to get it. And then you're like, what? And then you get Kamala Harris. And here's the best part. Her response is, well, what they're doing is bad because the attacks they took and made are bad. And that's a bad thing for us. Take your pick. You get one of two options. I got to be honest. By like a slight margin, I guess I'd take Kamala Harris. But for all we know, she's faking it. And she's actually just like extremely evil. So the New York Times goes on to mention his broken brain and all that stuff. Republicans were quick to pounce, some calling the president unfit for office and demanding his removal. But while the report disparaged Mr. Biden's mental health, medical experts on Friday noted that its judgments were not based on science and that its methods bore no resemblance to those that doctors use to assess possible cognitive impairment. Please, New York Times, write more of this. Please. Because the American people can see Joe Biden, okay? So when you're like, actually, the doctors didn't say it, people are like, bro, I saw the guy. He fell up the stairs twice. He's clearly not there. I love it when the media tells on themselves. All right. In the simplest form, the issue is that doctors and family members have been dealing with for decades. How do you know when an episode of confusion or a memory lapse is part of a serious decline? You don't, said David Lowenstein, director of the Center of Cognitive Neuroscience and Aging at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine. The diagnosis requires a battery of sophisticated and objective tests that probe several areas: different types of memory, language, executive function, problem solving, and spatial skills and attention. No. We're stopping now. If you want a man who has the button, okay, the button, and he can press it, and he can't remember who's alive, then perhaps he should not have that button, and we should ask him to kindly step away from office. But this dude is such a crackpot, it ain't going to happen. I don't know exactly what you can expect, but it's basically everybody saying, yo, it's not happening, okay? Politico writes, opinion. The Republican fantasy that Democrats will replace Joe Biden. No, Michelle Obama is not going to be the nominee. I don't believe you. I don't know that it'll be Michelle Obama, okay? I don't know that. I just don't see Joe Biden being president. Or I should say, the candidate. Reason why? First, his advanced age and mental decline seems to be rapidly accelerating. The idea that he stays alive, and I'm not saying anything bad happens to him in terms of like externalities. I'm saying he may just sleep one day and not wake up. And then Kamala Harris becomes president. It doesn't matter what you want to happen. It doesn't matter if you think Democrats don't want to do it. This is funny because they write, the Republican fantasy that Democrats will replace Joe Biden. Ask yourself what it means to replace Joe Biden. What they're saying is that so long as Joe Biden is alive, Democrats won't swap him out? Fine, fair point. But what are the chances he just is really old and doesn't make it? They will replace Joe Biden. Otherwise, there'd be no Democrat nominee. The other reality is, just because this guy, Rich Lowry, has his opinion doesn't mean it's true. I get it, though. I don't know that it'll be Michelle Obama. Who knows? Maybe. Her betting odds have been jumping up pretty much a good amount. Let's do this. I'm going to pull up electionbettingodds.com and drop this one over here. So right now, they have so they don't have Michelle Obama for the Dem nomination. U.S. presidency. Take a look at this. This is fascinating. Joe Biden, 71% chance of winning the Democrat nomination. Donald Trump, 89% chance of winning the GOP. But Michelle Obama doesn't appear in the nomination bracket, but she's number 3. Number 3 for the U.S. presidency. Okay, fine. Maybe it will not be Michelle Obama. I don't think she's going to do it. I really don't think so. She's got this quote. James O'Keefe did some undercover reporting where she said, I saw everything my husband went through and I don't want to go through that. Not to mention all the big Mike memes. I don't think she wants to be in that spotlight. She probably wants to back away and be like, look, I'm rich, I'm comfortable, leave me out of it. But I do think there's a strong possibility that they replace Joe Biden. I think I had a prediction about this months ago where I said Biden will drop out. They will replace him. That is my prediction. Unless they're just waiting for it to all burn down. Now, that may be the case. They may have decided to resign themselves to the fact that they couldn't find anybody to win anyway. It's potentially evidenced by this post from J.D. Vance. He said, I just sent this below memo to every one of my Republican colleagues in Congress. Buried in the bill's text is an impeachment time bomb for the next Trump presidency. If he tries to stop funding the war in Ukraine, we must vote against this disastrous bill. That's right. We've been talking about it on Timcast IRL. A lot of what Democrats are doing right now seem poised to sabotage Donald Trump in the next term. Why are they ramping up illegal immigration? Because when Trump comes in, he will try to reverse it, which means they need a 3-fold increase in illegal immigration. Why? You've got the 20 to 24 cycle where they want X amount of illegal immigrants. But they know Donald Trump will reverse and create a zero sum, which means if they do 3 times the amount of illegal immigrants they normally do, and Donald Trump reverses as much as he can, they get 2 years of illegal immigration crammed into 1 that Donald Trump cannot stop. And of course, the funding for the war in Europe. I think we will see some larger mobilization later on in this year, perhaps in the Middle East. Why? They want to start the wars and create a circumstance where Trump will not be able to get out of them. It's all being lined up. Perhaps that's their strategy. We thought for a while it may be Nikki Haley, that she would try to subvert Trump. That doesn't seem to be happening. And maybe it was that it was never really their plan and Vivek was wrong and I was wrong. And perhaps their real plan is just let's steamroll through as much as we can into law now so that Donald Trump will have too much to undo and we will bog down his second term with useless garbage. Like a lot of procedural stuff, a lot of hand tying and legislative action that will make it very difficult for Trump to accomplish anything. I think that's where we're going. But I got to say, if that's the case, they will not remove Joe Biden. I think it is fair to say behind the scenes, it is true and correct. We have all been right. They don't want Joe Biden to run. Now, what strategy they take to stop Donald Trump may actually involve Biden running. I think if they're serious, I'll put it this way. I will lighten up my prediction from several months ago that Biden will drop out. And I'll say it this way. I accept that I may be partially wrong on that. But I also will state that I am mostly right. We know they don't want Joe Biden. And the reason why I say he won't run is because I think everyone recognizes he can't. His brain is broken. However, they may take a political strategy of keeping him in for some other reason. Meaning, maybe they're like, no. Let's just leave him in. There's no backbench. Let's just sabotage Trump. That could be the reality too. Then Trump is expected to win and they sabotage him. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.